And then this room is the first run of everything, where we've got all the Trans Worlds, all the Thrashers, all the Big Brothers, all the Skateboard Mag, all the slaps here, all the skateboarders. And then we've got Strength, Power Edge. Down here's all the Canadian magazines like Color, Concrete, SBC, King. And Big Brothers are here. You know, 105 Big Brothers. It only takes up from here to here. Not, you know, like that's from 92 to 2004. But it's only this big to have them all. And the same with Skateboard Mag. 162 issues, just the length of this shelf here. Slap goes from here to there, 205 issues.
Dude, I had no idea that they did this on their spines.
Yeah, that was super kind of groundbreaking to have, you know, to have the forethought to put a graphic on the spine, so when you have them all lined up, you get to see the bearing, or the DRI guy. Andy Jenkins did some of these. Todd Bratcher did this one, you know. And then that kind of stopped at 130 when they sold to the barracks. So what do we got? This is Trans Worlds all through here. 397 issues of Trans World take up these 6 quadrants here. We've got Rad and Skate Action from the United Kingdom that started in the 80s. Over here is like France, Germany, some United Kingdom, Spain, Belgium, you know, so, and then over here we've got a lot of the books. So when we say we're archiving everything in skateboarding that's been in print, we're talking about books, we're talking about magazines, we're talking about self-published zines, and then we even have catalogs. Up here you can see we're doing DVDs and VHS, and you know the focus is on the magazines, but I'm trying to have a little bit of everything. If it's been in print, we want to have it for history's sake.
Dude, I got a magazine for you. My homegirl in Barcelona. You maybe have heard of it, Dolores.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have issue 1.
Okay.
I have a few issues in my house.
Yeah, I don't think
one.
somebody asked me about Dolores recently, and I've seen it online, but I haven't seen a real copy yet.
I have like 3 copies of issue 1. I'll put that in the box with the iDabble stuff.
Awesome. When did she start doing that, you think?
Last year.
Okay. Yeah, so these are kind of all in alphabetical order based on brand. So you got your Toy Machines, your Thrasher, Think, Spitfire, SMA, 60/40 shorties as you go down the line there to Speed Wheels, Santa Cruz. And that we still got a lot of holes to even be anywhere close. Like for all the major domestic magazines that you're familiar with, Thrasher, Slap, Trans World, Big Brother, we have one of everything. But where we have a ton of holes is in the international arena, where we're talking about Sidewalk Surfer from London, Monster from Germany, 100% from Brazil. There's quite a few in Brazil. And basically every industrialized country over the years has produced a handful of different magazines that have been used in country, obviously, to promote mainly the U.S. brands. So
Tell them if they're watching, hit me up.
yeah, DM us, because we're down to trade. If you need a slap and we need a Brazilian mag or whatever you have from a foreign country, we're down to trade to help grow the archive. This is a new one out of Australia called Grass Fires. Cab's got one of the covers. Omar and Ave have a cover. That's Steve Olson on the issue of cover of issue 1. And that's kind of more a lifestyle mag, but has skating in it. And yeah, try to have some other little, memorabilia to take up some wall space. When we can get this kind of stuff, advertisers would get these plastic pop-up covers to just help them promote. There's all little bonuses for getting a cover. I'm sure Black Label got one of these, and whoever Day One was riding for in '98.
Yeah, like what is all this? Like, what's that shoe?
This was a gold Emerica shoe for Ed Templeton that Matt Roman from Coliseum Skate Shop gave us when we were out in Boston a few years ago. This is a shoe that DVS did with Mike Burnett that has a bunch of his photos from the Carbondale run. Just kind of superimposed on one of those Tim Gavin shoes. This is kind of fun. Jordan Barrett rides for Cliff Bar, and they did used a picture that her mom took and put it on all this packaging for Cliff Bars that are like in stores now. Yeah, and we're always trying to get books. We've got the Cliche book, Resume, the Back in the Day book from William Sharp, Big Brother book, FTC book, all again, that's kind of an area where we've got quite a few holes where, it's easy for me to network with people at Thrasher, but so many of these books, especially books from the 80s and 70s, you don't know where to even start to get a hold of a publisher to find out if they've got a pallet of them still in a warehouse somewhere, or if they all were dispersed around the world. Yeah. We got here. And then these are trading cards, the 411 trading cards. Markovich, Frazier, Costin, Armando Bajas, Renee Mathewson, Rick Howard, Josh Beagle, Ray Barbie. So 411 put them out, Mad Circle made a few, Etnies made a few, and then just random like baseball card companies made certain one. There's one of Chris Miller from 1991, just some random thing that was included in a series with volleyball players and surfers and stuff. Ed Templeton. What do we got here?
These are your cover cards. These are the photos that are on the covers?
Yeah. Kristen, Ray Barbie. So, it's in print, right? It's not necessarily a magazine, but it's part of our skateboarding history. And yeah, and then Toy Machine did a collab with this Thorn Brewing Company when they had their new video come out, Programming Injection. Lucas before did a little collab with another beer company. I'm not even sure what that one is. Indie Brewing Company. We've got a Costin golf ball from Lakai, just like all kinds of random little bits of the past.
What's if you only get one armful, this place is on fire, where are you headed?
Yeah, I'm headed over here. So the first 9 issues of Thrasher were oversized, kind of like a Rolling Stone magazine. And so Our issue number 1 is pretty raggedy. These are quite expensive items that most people aren't ready to donate. But we have mint copies of the next 8 from Chris Stropel here, Chris Miller, Alan Losey, one of my favorites. This is Dwayne and Cab. And then Mike Smith doing his famous trick, the Smith stop there. This is a random Canadian guy named Mike Pust that ended up working for Schmidt Sticks. And Bob or Hetson, I forget the downhillers' names. And then Cab has September, and then it goes into the normal format that we're used to, the kind of normal magazine format. But I would definitely grab this little portfolio, and then I would reach into this. So for issue number 7 of Big Brother, they made 8 different covers. So you got Danzig, Mr. T, Chet Thomas, Earl Parker, Rosa, Rodney, and Ronnie Krager. And then there should be a, I guess I got, you know what, my copy of that cover for Shiloh Greathouse must be in an autograph pile. So we got to meet up with Shiloh earlier this year and had him sign his cover. So got to get that back into that spot. So yeah, this is a big mess. This is the international mags. We just kind of keep. We just got these from a Charlie Wilkins donation that came down from Portland. We got. There's a Bob Burnquist Brazilian mag, 100% skate mag, random cover of Street Bob doing a nose slide down a big hubba. And yeah, more Brazilian here from the 80s. This is a freestyler that runs the distribution company in France, Jean-Marc Vaisset. Was when there was Rodney Mullen, Reggie Barnes, Per Wielander, like the top freestylers. This guy was from France and was one of the top freestylers that had a board on Sims, I believe. And then trying to complete this collection of KO catalogs. We're missing a few. What we got here? Eli Reed. They basically kind of did a catalog and kind of made it into a zine. So we're trying to get all of those. This is a magazine out of Spain, a little zine called Gorilla. And then, what do we have here? Can you see that okay? This is Jimmy Carter, 1976, Newsweek. Why do I have this? Because it has an article on skateboarding in it. So there might be a Good Housekeeping from 1979 that has a Tony Alva interview in it. If we can find that information out, or somebody hips us to that idea, I'll try and track it down on eBay just so that we have a record of it again. This is a girls' teen magazine that has Tony Hawk and Joe Johnson and Chris Miller in it as like the handsome skater guys, So, what else we get? And then there's Beefcake Sheckler on the ESPN magazine cover. This has Cara Beth Burnside on it. It's kind of a music zine, but has a pretty broad, early series of interviews about women in skateboarding. Just recently found found that this existed, you know. So I'm always learning. Like I said, I have a really pretty solid background on all the domestic magazines, but when you start talking about music punk zines that had featured skateboarding, and then especially into the, you know, I'm constantly learning about a new magazine from Denmark or Sweden that maybe they only did 4 issues before they called it quits or turned it into another magazine. So there's just like this is a magazine from France that has Alf on the cover. Pretty friggin' cool. From the, I think that's the Kmart curb that they skated a lot in the early 90s in Oceanside. You know, so yeah, so that's kind of what this is. This room is what we kind of refer to as the headquarters or the master archive. So when anybody sends us in a magazine that we don't have, it ends up in this room. If it's a double or isn't earmarked for the Skateboarding Hall of Fame or one of our bigger libraries at Cowtown out in Arizona, then it kind of goes down into this other room here, which I call the stacks. And this is where we have all the doubles and triples and quadruples. We've got a whole wall of excess thrashers, some of which will have 20 copies of one issue, some of which will have 2 copies. Trans World and the Skateboard Mag, we have loads of Big Brothers, Thrashers. You know, it gets, you know, everybody has their favorite magazine, right? So certain people, if they're going to thin out their collection, maybe it's the Skateboard Mag or Trans Worlds that go first, but they love Thrashers, so they're going to hold on to their Thrashers, or they love Big Brother. So it seems like we end up mostly with Trans Worlds and the Skateboard Mags, certain years of Thrashers. You know, we've got, just right here, we've got 8 copies of this Anthony Papalardo skateboarder cover that Joey Shigeo donated recently. And yeah, so this table is right here is all mags that Charlie Wilkins donated recently that we have to then integrate into the stacks here so that we know if somebody needs a certain issue from May of 1999, we'll know where that is to pull it and potentially send that to them. Or if we're going to be pulling for a major library build, we'll go in. That's what a lot of these crates are, is it's already pulled sets of magazines. Like this is 2 crates. That's all the skateboard mags right there that can go up on a shelf if a shop in Idaho or Washington or California hits us up and says, hey, I want to do a library. What we've got this amount of space, you know, so that's where I'll talk to a skate shop owner, figure out how much space they have. They say, okay, we've got about a space that's 5 foot tall by 3 foot wide, and then I'll measure that out and feel how many crates. These crates are 18 inches, and then I just kind of do my calculations of like, okay, that size shelf could hold 6 crates of magazines, and then I'll pull a selection of Thrashers, a selection of Slaps, a selection of Big Brothers, and to try to give a full, it's not a full selection, but a broad selection of all the different magazines that we have in excess, and put that up at a new library.
Sick, dude. I just want to get some shots of these.
Yeah, so got Thrasher this side, Transworld's over here, more Transworld over here, Skateboard Mag, and then we go to Skateboarder, Concussion, some International, Juice, Confusion, Big Brother, Low Cards over there. And you know, it doesn't seem like there's any rhyme or reason as to why we'll have 10 copies of April 2010, but only have two copies of May 2010. See, like this is a groundbreaking one right here. Who's that? That's backside, Andrew Reynolds' backside flip, you know, that we just have 4 copies of because a lot of people hold on to that one.
what was the hardest thing for you to track down? You finally got your hands on, and you're like, what?
Well, I'm trying to think. I think the Danzig cover of Big Brother #7 was really tough to find, and after tracking down one of the other covers and having 6 of them to having 7 of them, and then finally get that last issue, that was a very good feeling of completion. But yeah, Thrasher #1 is definitely, like I say, we still need. I'm still on the lookout for an issue that's in better condition than the one we have, and that's the case with a fair amount of mags. Especially ones skateboarders from the '70s, where we've got one we've got it, but it's in pretty tattered condition. So I'm always kind of on the lookout to get a better copy to go in the master collection. Yeah, Low Card #1 was a really hard one to find because like the first 10 issues of Low Card were just Xeroxed. Just maybe made 50 of each one, and somebody that worked at Low Card early on found out that we were looking for it and sent it down. What's that?
Yeah, issue 1 right here.
No, this is just excess.
Oh, yeah,
Issue 1 will
Dabbles.
be up in the other room, and stuff we have of Low Card that's doubles. We only have like stuff into the teens here. Gordon Eckler, issue 16. So, yeah.
Concrete Wave, dude. What?
Yeah. So we'll do. Concrete Wave is kind of known as a longboarder magazine, but we do that. We do juxtapose certain things that maybe aren't razor focused on skateboarding, but if it has skateboarding in it, we want to archive that stuff as well. Yeah, a lot of people are into the early slaps up there. Those are
It's just so fucking
confusions. Yeah, automatic. Transworld Earth Skateboard Mag #1, Skateboard Mag #2 with Heath. Here's a classic one. Alfonso Rouse from '96, front nose. Yeah, so stuff that this is kind of a whole pile of giveaways where if we get stuff that's torn or has pages missing, well loved, we wouldn't want to put this in the library because it'll just get further messed up. So I'll kind of keep those for when we do events, and we'll have a pile of just giveaways for people to take. This is my first magazine that I ever got as a kid. September 1986, Mark Gonzalez on the cover. Yellow dipped Gons board from Vision, and I was able to track down that exact same colorway for my first skateboard. My first good skateboard. I had kind of a toy store one first, but yeah, it's down there. That Fly Me board. That's my first, well, not the one I rode, but that was kind of the gimmicky toy store board that I got before my Gons. So this shows all the covers of Color Magazine that was run by Sandro Grisson from Vancouver. They did, I don't know, 100 or so issues of Color before he went on to work for. He worked for the Skateboard Mag, and he's worked at different shoe companies. But it was a very art-driven skateboard magazine from Vancouver. And yeah, so there's certain things like this that are very helpful for me to understand, especially when some of these magazines produced multiple covers per issue. and oftentimes I'll say, oh, I have 9.1. I don't realize that I don't have both covers of 9.1. And so these I look at as resources, and this Thrasher poster that has, I think the first, what is that? Yeah, the first 25 years is on this poster up here. You know, Thrasher, you can go online and find all their covers. They have a cover archive that's very helpful too. But just being able to sit there and go, oh yeah, there's where Cardiel's Skater of the Year cover is, or ooh, there's Tommy Guerrero's cover from 1984. You know, visual reference is very helpful.
Oh, wow,
Yeah. Thrasher made nine issues of comics in the late 80s, early 90s.
Damn, you don't just hold those up and tell me about that. I feel like nobody knows that.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, there you go.
So Thrasher did a series of comic books. I like to think this was late 80s. And yeah, I don't know who drew them. I don't really know much about them, but a lot of people don't know that they're out there. And again, you know, it's kind of merging the world of skateboarding and art early on. Not sure whose brainchild these were, but pretty cool, you know. Just another blip on the creative side of skateboarders. And then this is another series that's more like your DC comic superhero thing called Shred, that has a skateboarding kind of superhero that I didn't know about until like 2 years ago.
Dude, I think we're good. I think we fucking nailed it.
Yeah, here. Let's see. So this is a zine from Germany in 1985, done by Santa Cruz pro Klaus Grabke. He only made 2 issues. We have the first one. I'm still looking for issue number 2 that has Tony Alva on the cover. I've hit up Klaus. He doesn't have any, but that's the one that I kind of put out there on Instagram every now and then. Hey, do you have number 2? Someday we'll get it. Never know when, but I'm confident. Long enough time goes by, and more people hear about what we're doing. We'll get issue 2.
Have you talked to Mark Johnson about getting that cover of that magazine you want?
He doesn't have it.
He doesn't have it?
A lot of the foreign mags, the guys never ended up with the covers. Yeah. But yeah, I'm supposed to see Mark to have him do a sit down, because like if it's a guy with a lot of covers, I like to try to sit him down at a table where I can spread out all the covers, you know, and get them seated behind it. Got a good one at Ed Templeton with all of his covers, and Mark's had enough. Yeah, that's Power Edge. That's one of my favorite issues.
Oh, can you show me some of the magazines with people's addresses, shipping addresses and names?
Yeah.
So I can have a couple to cut to.
So this room has all the autographs in them. All this wall is all autograph stuff. And then some of this stuff over here is to be autographed or to go to Skateboarding Hall of Fame. Let's see what we can pull here. Boom, 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 boom. No. It's packed in here. What's a good example? Boom, 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 boom. So here's a Figgy cover. And then where did that go? Corey Duffel's house. And let's see what else we got here. Yeah, here's a good one. So Chad Fernandez Transworld cover for 2001. Cardiel's went to his house. So, you know, this is priceless in my eyes, you know. And what do we got here? Guy that was in North County, San Diego for years, recently moved back to Switzerland, Chandy Jenquin, with Matt Eversole from Tilt Mode Army. Matt was another guy that donated most all of his magazines to us a few years ago. So yeah, this, you know, I'd say thousands of magazines in this room are autographed by the dudes on the cover, and you know, maybe half of those have a mailing label from somebody significant in the skateboard industry. And so this is the room I come into when I want to pull for an exhibit centered around a certain theme.
Just grab a random one and see who you get.
Oh, who's that? Jerry Sue, strength cover. And this went to the guy, the owner of Volcom, Troy Eckert. So, yeah, plenty of gems in here. Plenty of gems. This is a signed print that Matt Hensley made to support Alan Losey in his struggle with his condition. It's a representation of his Transworld cover from the 80s. Yeah. So yeah, and this is, we just saw Ronson Lambert the other day, and Chris Lambert. The two Lamberts, Chris and Ronson, no relation, but both live in North County, and both had covers. We just got those signed last week. And we got to find space in there for them.
Sick, yes. Wow. Alright, so, first of all, because a lot of people have no idea, tell me your name, and how long you've been skateboarding, and where we're sitting right now.
My name's Kevin Marks. I've been skateboarding since 1986. That's 34 years. And we're sitting in my home here in San Diego, California.
Yeah, I guess the first obvious question is, why?
Why? Well, I grew up in Kansas, middle of the country, very far from the epicenter of skateboarding. But I saw Back to the Future in 85, 86 that sparked my interest in skateboarding. It led me to getting the Toy Story board, and then to my Mark Gonzalez board. But my lifeline to what was going on in skateboarding were my subscriptions to the magazines, and I kept those magazines in really good shape. And you know, when I learned about, so first, you know, for me, first it was Transworld and Thrasher, and then Power Edge came out in 1988. I got a subscription to that, and by 1990 I'd gone off to college in Colorado, but by 92, 93, Slap had started, Big Brother had started. Those magazines got, you know, those subscriptions got sent to my apartments in Colorado, and the collection just kind of grew. I didn't really go out of my way to learn about international mags at the time, but whatever I could get a subscription to in the States, I did, and really looked at those magazines as resources and as the key to developing my knowledge, my greater knowledge of skateboarding, this pastime that I had, continued to just, my passion for it grew and grew. It taught me about road tripping, the scenes in different cities, how to build ramps, all these different things. My mom was, after 2 years of relentless requesting, she finally broke down and let me build a ramp in our backyard when I was in high school. And, and then around that same time, I saw the Bones Brigade video show and Future Primitive, and then Animal Chin came out. So it became a coalescence of both learning from magazines and from videos. And I worked at the local skate shop as a kid in high school. So I started to get an education on how the business end of skateboarding works.
You're still good. You can keep talking.
And then, I ran a skate shop while I was in college for a while, and then moved to San Diego in '95. And basically, I've always worked in skateboarding, but in my 30s, I started to kind of have ethical conflict of like selling stuff to people that they necessarily didn't need. So I was kind of at a crossroads, like, how can I still be involved in skateboarding and not really have to sell anything? I had this magazine collection. A friend of mine put me on the board of directors for his nonprofit that was based out in Colorado called Launch Community Through Skateboarding. And then one of my first projects at Launch was to grow their magazine library. And I had this collection here sitting at my house. And then I started networking with people that I'd met in the skateboard industry from having worked in it for so long. And it led to partnerships at the Skateboarding Hall of Fame. It led to building out a big library for Cowtown in Arizona. And after, all of that was kind of to pull doubles to get the Launch library as big as and thorough as it could be. And after a year of kind of working on that, I realized, I don't want to sell anything. I'd often thought about trying to work in the nonprofit world. I didn't really necessarily see how I could fit into that. And then after working on the library project at Launch, I just was like, hey, maybe I could do this as a larger project, and that's what I've been working on for the last 6 years.
I've noticed this just in editing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy for me because I'm at a computer, I got my hard drive, just type in the clip I'm looking for, or the folder, I know where it's at. I could see this getting so overwhelming if you don't keep it organized.
Yeah. Well,
so, talk about when you got to the point where it was when did you get enough magazines where you're like, this is overwhelming, I need to invest in more shelves, or I need to figure out a good organizational system? Or were you always just an organized person?
Well, I like to think of myself as an organized person. There's always kind of projects that are work in progress that either I don't have a firm idea of where they're going to fit on my existing shelf structure, so they just kind of stay in piles for a while. But the main shelves in this room have been here for quite a few years now, and I keep basically Word documents. I don't have a formalized database that keeps track of what is needed at each library, but I have these digital lists that I am continually updating and referencing as donations come in, or if somebody from France says, hey, I have Sugar Magazine issues 200 through 222, I just go to my spreadsheet and I look and see what I need, and it's like, hey, we could use 216 and 219. You want to trade you need any slaps or Big Brothers? So, we're fairly organized, but there's always room for improvement, and I have a small skill set that I'm working with, and and I'm open, somebody that's really good at building databases that could really take all the different parameters that we need to include in one could be very helpful, but that is kind of over my head, and so I just kind of keep working with the notes list, the digital notes lists, and it's working to a degree,
I hadn't even thought about that. That's smart that you have it all digital as well, because you can at least then say, if you get to the point where it's like overwhelming, you can be like, okay, I'm gonna put a sticker on this shelf that says A, B, C, and then you're like, okay, I know what shelf it's on.
Yeah, the main collections of, now it's a trip because there's no more Transworlds. This is it. Like, I don't have to allocate any more space. Thrasher continues to grow, but not at it's at a reasonable rate, and most of the Canadian magazines are done, so like it's just kind of with foreign mags that I kind of have to build space for as we get more and more copies in. But
is it I mean, obviously you love skateboarding and you love print, so is it kind of a win-lose situation? Are you kind of glad that there isn't an overwhelming amount of magazines to keep up with and track down now? And are you glad that it's like, okay, I know what's out there and I just have to find it, as opposed to like doing that and keeping track of more new stuff that's coming out?
No.
Or are you upset that, like, this shit, you wish that Transworld would keep going?
I try to be accepting of our current situation. Yes, I definitely would prefer that there would be more magazines. And to someone that's not really too familiar with the global skateboard scene, there are still a lot of magazines. In the U.S., we only have one monthly publication, that's Thrasher, that's still running. But England, a lot of the other countries still are putting out magazines. Maybe they're at much smaller print runs, and maybe they don't come out monthly, but they'll come out every 2 months or every quarter. And so, yeah, I'm thrilled to continue to get new publications and to hear about new ones starting up. And yeah, it's just, but overall, I'm dealing with a fan base or a skater base that is is 30 and above, that really shows much of an interest in what I'm doing, because most kids in the last 2 generations of skateboarders have only really learned about skateboarding from their phones and from the internet, and they don't have the same memories that you or I do have about this cover or that interview, that Mark Johnson interview and Slap, or it's a total different way of coming up, and I just have to be accepting of that. And again, part of why I'm doing this is so that newer generations can learn from the past and see what the stepping stones were to get to the present day. And
tell me about because I think it's a really cool concept. Let's see, I really like the angle that I have going there, but I know I'm gonna want another one.
Yeah.
Fucking editing. I think it's sick when you can see like the mags like in this thing. Let's do one wrapped on this side. All right. Tell me about, because you mentioned it a few times, and I think it's a really cool concept. Like, I mean, we all did it. Like, maybe kids don't now, but like I think we all did it in school. We did it. Like, we trade something. Like, you go to lunch, you got a snack pack. That's cool. I want a bag of chips. Like, we'll trade. Like, it's sick that you do that with magazines. Like, just talk about trading. How crazy is it? Like, I'm sure you've probably gotten some cool stuff through trading, and like, how often do people want to trade across the world with different magazines?
It takes a lot of networking. It's not like I'm being hit up every day. Hey, I've got this. Hey, I've got that. It's like in our Instagram story, I have to kind of do requests and like, hey, I'm looking for this issue, this issue, this issue. Anybody have anything they'd want to trade for? You know, and I kind of have to bait people to you know, because a lot of people that have collected magazines don't necessarily have them at their beck and call the way I do. They're oftentimes in storage bins in the garage at their mother's house, you know. So like, if somebody hits me up today, it could take 8 months before I get the magazine over here, because they're like, the idea has been planted in their head, but they aren't going to see their mother where the magazines are until Thanksgiving. Then maybe they'll remember to check then, you know, maybe they won't. And so I've got all kinds of notes in my calendar to follow up with this guy about, has he had a chance to look through his mags yet? You know, give him 2 months to look, you know, because every time you replant that seed, hopefully it'll ultimately lead to them finding what you need, you know, because they'll say like, oh yeah, I think I have that. That looks familiar, but stuff's at my mom's, or I won't, you know, it's just like, it's buried in the basement. You know, because that can be a huge mental block to think like, God, I've got to move all this shit out of the way to look through a crate that has 300 magazines in it to look for one. So it doesn't happen all that often, and I have to do a lot of follow-up to get things to happen. But we have gotten a lot of tremendous stuff. You know, there's no way I'm going to France to go through this guy's garage, you know, and so I just have to be as thorough and follow up without bugging somebody, you know. But you know that they want to help, you know, grow the archive, because I mean sits here in San Diego, but I'm constantly getting hit up by people that are trying to think in their head, I have this memory of this Mark Johnson interview, but I don't know what issue it's in. And I'm really good about covers. I pretty much know everybody that's been on a cover, but I don't know what issue of Slap this interview was in, or this photo of a frontside wall ride at the Brooklyn Banks, you know, or, you know, people think I have this huge knowledge, and maybe if I just happen to be looking at it, it'll be fresh in my head. But oftentimes I'll hit up Mark Whiteley, formerly editor of Slap, you know, like, hey, do you remember this thing? And sometimes it'll come together, or sometimes I'll put it in the story about, hey, here's this picture of Nate Jones. Anybody have any idea what issue of Slap this came out of? You know, instead of having to look through 209 issues, it's like I call on the public through the main way I have that's easy to do, put it in the story, and you hope there's going to be some interaction there, and it'll lead to getting someone's question answered. And so in that sense, I like to look at this as skateboarding's resource. You know, it sits here in San Diego, but if you can add a magazine to help get the archive more thorough, you help the overall project that benefits all of skateboarding, and maybe you'll get a magazine out of it, or maybe you don't really care. You don't want any more magazines, but this stuff's been sitting in your basement and you want it to go to a good cause. And so, yeah, there's a lot of different avenues that magazines will come to us, and it's been harder now in COVID with so much like less travel. Mail takes forever to get here from Europe now, and it's more expensive, and you know, there's no real events to go to. So yeah, things are changing.
Have you lost any stuff in the mail? Have you ever, has the mail lost anything? Have you been like,
oh yeah,
you're waiting for, like, you finally found a magazine, years gone by or whatever, like, you're so stoked, and it's gone now, lost in the mail?
Yeah, I mean that's always a risk, because the cheapest way to send stuff through the mail internationally is first class mail where there's no tracking. So you have a good track record, but I sent a box to Neil McDonald, the guy that does Science versus Life, a whole box of slaps that left here, I think, in May. Tracking number says it's in Chicago somewhere. Never, it just never got there. It could still show up here, return to sender, maybe. I'm waiting on 5 mags from a eBay seller in France right now that left 2 months ago. And maybe it could have taken 5 weeks in the current state of affairs, but yeah. So there's some horror stories, but overall, that it works for the most part, and it's cost effective. And all this talk of the post office shutting down or being, I don't even want to think about that. Having to use FedEx or UPS all the time, which will just, I mean, already
I think if I've thought about that too. I think if the post office goes, there's just going to be 10 new things that pop up that are just as sick. Because it's like a lot of companies don't start because of the post office.
Yeah.
You might have some new, awesome thing that comes out of it that's not as slow and maybe more manageable.
Maybe. I like your optimism.
This is a personal question, kind of, or a business question. I mean, it's a business question. I look at it, but you don't have to answer it. How much money has been spent building this collection?
Don't know. That I've never gotten that question. And the question I get most often that I have no answer to is, how many magazines are here? And I could try to itemize everything, but I usually just don't even address the question, because we're always building libraries. We're always getting donations in. It's kind of this constant ebb of flow of magazines coming in and magazines going out. So, yeah, I don't know.
You can tell them, do your research, figure out how many Transworld slabs, Big Brothers, add those all together. We got
$397. No, yeah, I mean, it's insane. But how much money? I don't know. Good question. I don't have a good, I have a kind of a journal of pluses and minuses, but I haven't added that up in a long time. So we will sell magazine that we have in excess to a collector and use that money to buy something on eBay or to pay for postage for some guy that wants to send us a magazine from Germany but doesn't have the money to mail it. So there is a business aspect of the organization, but for the most part, whatever money comes in through the sale of a magazine goes back into buying something that we need, and we don't really feel like we'll get donated in anytime soon.
That's sick. All right, here's another one. You maybe get often, maybe not. What's your favorite magazine of all time?
Power Edge.
Tell me why. Can you say that, because they're not gonna hear me asking the question.
Yeah, my favorite magazine of all time is Power Edge. It came out in 1988 in a time where only Transworld and Thrasher were in the mix. Transworld had the skate and create ethos, was very colorful and kid friendly. Thrasher had more of an edge, but Power Edge comes out, and so I was already familiar through those other two magazines of the main stars in skateboarding, but Power Edge kind of focused on more of the underdogs and had more unique camera angles. They took a lot more risks and I feel like maybe had just different creative minds in the running the mag, and the different photographers. Sturt shot at Power Edge. Rick Cossack got his start at Power Edge. Roger Bridges, Christian Klein, and Sin from Airwalk has shot a ton of stuff that ended up in Power Edge, and I can't pinpoint it exactly why it's my favorite, but I have fonder memories of flipping through Power Edge just because I would see skateboarding from a different light, and that Power Edge only lasted 3 years, from January 88 to October 91. And within a few months, April 92, Slap starts, and that kind of becomes my favorite magazine from the 90s into the 2000s, because, again, there's Skateboarder in the 2000s, there's Big Brother, there's a few other things, but Slap, for me, told the story of the skateboarding that I experienced and that I wanted to learn more about.
Sick, dude. Yeah, I feel like that's like part of our goal with Dabble is to just always every issue will have like a couple big names in it to draw people in, but like we hit you with like 2 or 3 people you've never even heard of, or like photographer or team manager or something, and then you're just like, oh, that was. And I ask people, I'll trip out. Like sometimes I'll ask people, I'm like, what was your favorite segment in that issue? And people will be like, oh, the behind the scenes or whatever, the branded about that company. And I'm like, that's sick. The one that I put in there just because I knew I had your attention and I wanted you to see it, that's the one you liked the most. Like, that's so cool to me.
Yeah.
So, because I feel like it's such a cool guy contest. It's such a, if you don't have the sponsors or the money, you're not marketable, you can't be a part of it. And it's like, I don't want people to have to buy their way in. I want everybody to be a part of it, because that's what it is. So it's like, it's sick that that's what Power Edge was. Because, I didn't know that. I wasn't around for Power Edge. It's like, that's cool that was the vibe.
That's my takeaway from it, anyhow.
That's sick. Let's see. Talked about. Is there any particular issue of any magazine that you're looking for that you've been looking for a long time that you've not been able to find?
Well, I would say that would have been Low Card 1, but we found that recently. And Skate John 5 just came in recently. There's those are things. Oh, so Limited number 20. So Limited is a German magazine that ran from like 95 till somewhere in the last few years, and issue 20 is the only one we don't have. And I've been searching for it long and hard, and the people that used to run Limited, that's the one issue they don't have. It's a Mark Johnson cover. And there's 2 guys in Germany that have said, yes, I have it, but they haven't followed through. Like it's in their basement. They haven't had time to look for it. So it's just like, there's a maybe that we have a hook on it that might get here in a few months or a year, but that's my current grail I'm trying to find, just to complete that set. Because as an organized, perhaps anal retentive type of personality, there's nothing greater than completing a set. And I'd say, the Limited is my current one that, because it's different when you need 5 or 10 or 20 to complete a set, but when it gets down to you just need 1 mag, it gets a little obsessive, And I'm like, when are we going to get it?
So this isn't just here.
Right.
Like, you set up stuff everywhere. I actually wasn't even aware of that until today. Like, talk about that. Talk about, because it's like, I'm sure you got to a point where you're like, well, it's not fair for me to just sit here and have all these. Or, well, no, you said before it was like a library thing you were building before. But yeah, just talk about how many places you're set up in. And, is it hard for you to not have some of those magazines here? Like, to know, okay, I'm giving this to a skate shop. I know the kind of kids that run skate shops, or talk about all that.
Yeah. So here in San Diego is the Master Archive. We're constantly getting stuff donated, and we have over 100 different smaller libraries or partnered libraries at skate shops around the world. Really, there's a few outside the country. Most of them are in the U.S. I think last year when I was on the road for 6 months, I knew I was going to build 5 libraries, and I ended up building, I think, 22 just last year. And that was part of a tour exhibit where I was taking a series of magazines that showcased the evolution of the Ollie around. We'd set up an exhibit at a shop for an evening, and then 2 nights later do it at another shop, and just kind of work your way around the country. And through those tours, we've done 3 U.S. tours like that, where we had a different exhibit each year, where you're constantly visiting shops and better explaining to the shop owners what you do. You're seeing the shop and seeing, oh, they've got some space over there by the TV or over by the couch or whatever, and then helping to facilitate, sharing that, hey, I've got magazines with me. If you'd want to have a small library right over there, we could build it out right now. And so that, yeah, we had a great year building libraries last year. It's obviously slowed down this year. And most libraries at shops don't have that much space, so we're only giving them magazines from the last 15 to 20 years. And in that, to answer your question about, do I get nervous about having magazines outside of our area of protection or overseeing, I don't. It's like most of the stuff is stuff we have tons of, and
you're not putting out Thrasher issue 1.
No, yeah, so I'm constantly kind of walking on this razor sharp edge of wanting over here historic preservation, building the master archive that is kept in good shape, doesn't have soda being spilled on it, whatnot. But then on the other side of that knife is the desire for the public to have access to it, and so that is the whole side of the building libraries at skate shops, is not being overly concerned that some kid's going to walk off with an issue from 2010 or tear it or spill a burrito on it. It's just, we've got excess, that's why we're doing it, is so that kids can go into a shop, kids or 30-year-old man or 40-year-old man can go in and get a blast from the past of like, dang, I remember that Mark Appleyard cover, or Jeff Phillips cover or whatever it might be, and have the ability to flip through something that maybe, they're not used to flipping through magazines anymore, and get that tactile feel of, oh, dang, there's that photo, oh man, they were doing this trick back then? Holy cow, I thought that was new. Not necessarily.
If people own skate shops or just anywhere that they want to have a Lookback library, how do they get a hold of you? How do they go?
Yeah, most people are familiar with our Instagram. This is just at Lookback Library. I'm very good about checking the DMs. I have on our profile there, you can see my email if you want to email me. That's the best way to reach out. And I'm not really traveling right now, but it's still possible to get a library built, because if you're in Joplin, Missouri, I probably won't be in Joplin, Missouri anytime soon where I can bring you magazines from here, but I might hear about a guy in Champaign, Illinois that wants to donate magazines, and then I can help coordinate transportation to get magazines from one state to the next to help build out a library. If you're in California, we can still make that happen this year. I'm ready. I'm itching for a road trip. I've been at home too long.
It's happened to me filming Dabble. And I've been in the skate industry, 20 years now.
Yeah.
Been pro, I've gotten to do some crazy things and be around some people that it still gives me goosebumps to think about, and I have to swallow it and just be a cool guy and not fan out. I'm sure talk about how many opportunities this has opened up for you, because if you didn't do this, I'm sure you've met some epic people. I see you out there getting autographs in Tampa and shit. I'm sure, tell me about just maybe one of your most fond memories of, if you weren't doing this, you never would have got to I don't know, hang out with Steve Cab or just something like that. I'm sure there's something that is a fond memory.
For sure. again, if you've watched us on Instagram, you'll see me posting pros with their covers. And when I meet up with somebody, it's usually to have them sign either all the covers or a specific one that we have with a cool mailing label from John Cardiel or Tony Hawk, or who we've had multiple people within the industry donate their magazines, and I'm kind of always pulling magazines and setting them aside if it has their mailing labels on it, kind of just to focus on that aspect of skate nerdery, to if I can get the guy to sign it on the cover and it has John Cardiel's mailing label on it, and then I end up pulling magazines for an exhibit on the Ollie or Clipper rail, or the Clipper ledge or whatever, I always pull from those magazines that have cool mailing labels on it if I'm going to showcase this at an exhibit or whatnot. I think the thing that comes to mind, so I'm always networking with pros to all these magazines over here are set aside to be autographed, and I just have to wait till I'm in a certain part of a country. But last year on the trip where I was on the road for 6 months, I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, I got to meet up with Brian Anderson in Manhattan, and since he's been in New York and isn't out, at least in Southern California, very often at all, that took a lot of work. Jim Thiebaud helped me get Brian's number. I've known Brian since I worked at Tumieto years ago, but it was like 20 years ago, but we were able to make it work. And he, if it's one or two covers, it's not that big a deal. Maybe for a pro to go, oh yeah, boy, I haven't seen that in a while. But for Brian, who has, 12 covers or so, to be able to lay them out on this portable table that I carry in the van and say, look at this one, here's your Big Brother cover, here's your two slap covers, and so it can be kind of mind-boggling for the pro to go, wow, you have all these, what's going on, and then they get to start telling me about this cover, what was going on that day, and the random little things that led to that cover or whatnot, and so getting to hear those kind of stories from pros and is priceless. And at smaller settings, like I got to hang out with Brian for over an hour, and we got to sit down and have a drink, and that gave me a chance to kind of better inform him of our overall goal here. It's not like I'm a super, a fanatical Brian Anderson fan that just happens to have all of these covers, and I just happen to be in New York and want you to sign them. It's a big project, and so it's not every interaction where I really have the time to let Josh Kalis or whoever it may be know exactly what I'm doing and why I happen to have all of your covers here with me. Freddie Gall was another example last year that I got to go to his house and lay everything out, and he was just like blown away that had everything, and that he so many of them he hadn't seen in so long. So yeah, those interactions, and then sometimes those interactions lead to a donation. Cairo Foster has sent down magazines after I went to his house in Portland to have him sign covers, and again, Cardiel gave us a big box when I was coming through Sacramento one time. Gotten to go to Tony's house, and he had some stuff from the 80s that he was willing to let go of, and and Corey Duffel was one of our first big donators that gave us like 25 box of magazines that were his and his brother's, and so you kind of never know where things are going to go. I try to do as much follow up and networking as I can, kind of through DMs if I don't know a team manager, for a certain guy. There's a handful of guys like I haven't met up with Bob Burnquist yet. I've got a big pile of Bob covers that it just keeps kind of stacking up. Yeah, a lot of guys I have met up with, but there's a handful, especially like Javier Mendenzabal is one of my favorite skaters, but he's in Spain, and he has a handful of different covers that I'd love to get signed sometime. And so I'm always network or Instagram is a good tool to where sometimes I feel like a private investigator or a detective, where you're like, oh, Danny Brady looks like he's in LA, so how long is he going to be there? Do I know anybody that Danny Brady knows to where I could try to work out a meeting or whatever? And do I actually have that many Danny Brady covers? I know he's got quite a few, but again, when it's a European guy that has mainly European covers, and we don't have that thorough a set of those, I might be missing some. And a lot of times I don't want to take up somebody's time if I don't have all their covers, or I don't know. So most everybody's been really gracious about signing the covers, and then they usually get psyched when I can point out, like Brian Anderson had some of the covers I had for him had really cool mailing labels, and from other pros that he was just like, wow. Like I had one that was from Ed Templeton, it said Ed Templeton Toy Machine, San Diego, from some Yeto, and he used to ride for Toy Machine. That kind of shit I just love, BA cover that went to Ed Templeton, so.
Dude, yeah, magazines it's already so cool if you can, like you said, you find a cover that they haven't seen in a long time, and then they see who it's shipped to.
Mm.
I think that's almost cooler for me than than what the magazine was. Is if you have one that was shipped to their house, like it's a one of a kind now, because it has their thing.
Absolutely.
You get to see where they lived. Like maybe you can drive by that one day. It's all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
That, dude. It's really sick. It's all full circle, everything you're doing, and I think it's super important, because I don't know if there's anybody else out there that has a collection like this, and it's like if somebody wasn't doing it, it's like, who knows? Like all these random little one-time print magazines, they might never get seen in 10, 15 years, and when there is a real skateboarding Hall of Fame, that people can go into, and it's like a real thing. It's like this will be.
Yeah. Well, there is a real skateboarding Hall of Fame. It's in Simi Valley, and that's where our second largest library is housed up there.
The skate lab.
Well, it used to be at the skate lab. Skate lab's closed now, and the Hall of Fame has its own building in Simi Valley now, that has a massive library. It has a mini ramp, and then all the history, and a skate shop. Yeah. So that's where our second largest collection is up there. And then you were saying not that many people have a collection this big. I want to shout out a distributor in the Netherlands named Nico van der Wal. When I was starting this, everybody would tell me, have you seen Nico's collection yet? And I still haven't seen it. I haven't been over there, but I've worked with him to do trades and stuff, and not having seen it, but I usually point to him as having the biggest collection. But we're probably nipping at his heels. So
it's sick. I'm gonna have to track him down one day.
Yeah.
See his collection. Sorry, I'm trying to be gentle with everything.
That's okay.
Dude, I think we've pretty much nailed everything that I want to know. Is there anything that that you want to say about magazines?
Talked about autographs. Talked about libraries.
Yeah, we talked about the labels. Talked about your favorite mag. Talked about what you would take if you were running out of your burning. I was really want to know about that. Yeah, dude. I honestly don't think that if something else pops into my head, I'll ask it. But I think all the main questions I want are covered. So if you have anything you want to say to kids about this, or we have a lot of our audience is 411's audience.
Yeah.
Most of our audience is older people as well. So there's a good chance that a lot of people are gonna be turned on to you that had never heard of you before after this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want anything you want to say, but
Is it still rolling?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always try to emphasize the community aspect of all the different libraries we have around the country. It's not mine. It's not the shop owners. We want them to be looked at as community resources where if you live in that town where the skate shop is and they have room, extra room on the shelf, bring some of your magazines down, contribute, help that collection grow in your own, within your scene. And I have a handful of volunteers that help me when we get a big donation here, that help me kind of sort, or if we have a big exhibit to plan for, I'll have a volunteer come down and help me kind of pull things and just brainstorm. Oh, hey, no, we need Darrell Stanton slap cover. We need, and then, so if you're in the San Diego area and interested in volunteering, DM me. And then if you're just wherever you might be, it's good to know that you might be interested in helping down the line, because I might need help getting a collection that has some time sensitivity to it from Chicago down to New Orleans, or like there's transportation help that we need from time to time, and just to know that you're excited about our project and want to help however you can, send me a DM so I can kind of keep track of where you are in the event that maybe you could help us get a collection moved from A to B. So, and then, I also say, like, if you want to help, look at estate sales you might go to. You never know where old magazines will end up, at thrift stores or estate sales. Like a friend of mine came up on really early Thrashers, a bunch of skateboarders, for $1 a piece in an estate sale up in Carlsbad a couple of years ago, and again, people might leave a crate or two of magazines just at the skate park if they're moving and don't know what to do with them anymore and they haven't heard about us. So there's a lot of ways people can help us grow, and just, reposting a photo you like of ours that helps kind of get the word out about what we're doing to your following base. And so, we need a lot of help getting the word out. So thanks thanks for doing this bit on us, and I look forward to continuing the process of growing our outbound library network, as well as growing the archive here, and doing more exhibits once it's safer to congregate.
Sick, dude. Last thing, just look at the camera, say your name, and you're watching iDabble.
Yeah, my name's Kevin Marks. You're watching iDabble Video Magazine.
Yes, dude. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah.
That was seriously so sick.